as we go through the 11th chapter of Ketubot, we come across Rabbi Shimon, who says that a widow, after the death of her husband, can only sell off her dead husband's property to for her own maintenance, or for that matter, um, to realize the value of her ketubah with the permission of the court. That's the beginning of the 11th chapter. And Rabbi Shimon his opinion is going to flow through into the third Mishnah, which we're going to look at today. Even though he isn't mentioned by name, we feel, I mean, this Mishnah is essentially if you like, the continuation of his view. And the Mishnah says, she sold her ketubah. So she sold some of the money or the possessions she was entitled to. Machra ketubata or miktsata. Maybe she sold a part of it. It's going to be really important. So she hasn't yet realized the whole of the value of her ketubah. She's only realized part of it, but she sold it or got rid of it in some other way. Mishkanata. Maybe she had it, maybe she mortgaged it for a loan, or miktsata, or some of it. Nisanala acher, maybe she gave it to somebody. Maybe she gave it to somebody, or miktsata, or some of it. And Rabbi Shimon is going to rule, lotim kuret hashar elevaveit. She can't carry on selling the rest of her husband's property. That is to say, selling property in order to realize the rest of her ketubah, except with the permission of the Bet Din. Rabbi Shimon doesn't seem to trust her to carry on to conduct on-market transactions. And we're going to see later that she's effectively the shaliach, she's effectively the agent of the heirs. So she's disposing of the property of the heirs in order to realize her claims. And just as the halacha doesn't go according to Rabbi Shimon in the previous Mishnayot, neither does it go according to her in this Mishnah. The sages are going to overrule him. The sages say, she can sell even in 4 or 5 installments. She's got extraordinary rights over her husband's property. And she might do that. She might need to do this, by the way, for her maintenance. And they explain, well, the Mishnah explains, well, the sages explain, so she can sell for her maintenance without the court, because she may need to sell off small parcels of land she may need to sell small parcels of land just in order to keep herself going. So what does she do in that case? Li mezonot macharti. I sold for my maintenance. And the Gemara actually brings in a fascinating comment at this point. Gemara says, oh, by the way, if she's selling in part for her maintenance and in part for her ketubah, then she should write in both cases, I sold for my maintenance or I sold for my ketubah. Why is that? Well, she might want to marry again, and she doesn't want to give the impression that she's a high maintenance wife. So if she's selling partly for her ketubah and partly for her maintenance, she needs to, if you like, record explicitly which is which, so that people shouldn't think that the capital sum that she sold in order to realize the value of her ketubah is actually her monthly maintenance allowance. And then the Mishnah concludes, Ugrusha lo timkor el b'vet din. All these halachot, all these rules which allow a widow to dispose of her husband's property do not apply to a divorcee. So the divorcee can only sell with the permission of the Bet Din. What's going on here? Well, possibly the divorcee is only seeking the ketubah and isn't subject to the indignity of having to go to the court for her maintenance, but perhaps as well, maybe there's a psychological truth here that the perhaps the Mishnah trusts the widow to act in the best interests of the heirs, whereas perhaps in the case of perhaps after a divorce, perhaps the relationships, perhaps that element of trust has gone. Anyway, the Mishnah rules din, a divorcee can only sell with the court, i.e., under the scrutiny of the court. Now, given that she can sell, what if she sells at off-market prices? Let's just take the example of a widow, whose ketubah was worth 200 zuz. 200 zuz, that means 2 manes. A maneh is 100 zuz. Her ketubah was 200 zuz. Machra shove maneh b'matayim. She sold property worth a maneh for 200 zuz. So she made 100 zuz profit, and she's realized all the funds she needs for her ketubah. And in that case, we're going to rule that she's received her ketubah. She's good. But it works. In other words, the estate, the heirs get the benefit. The heirs get the benefit of the fact that she's driven a great deal on this piece of land. She sold it for twice as much as it seems to be worth. But it doesn't work the other way. The heirs get the benefit, but they don't seem to take the loss. So if it goes the other way, or Shoveh Matayim b'maneh, she sells a piece of land worth 200 zuz for a maneh for only 100. Similarly, nit kabla ketubata, she's considered to have received her ketubah, i.e., by getting that land worth 200 zuz, she's considered to have basically received her ketubah. The fact that she sold it for a maneh is irrelevant. If she makes a profit, the heirs take the profit. But if she makes a loss, she takes the loss. So it's the outcomes are asymmetric, but the halacha seems to follow the law of an agent. So the widow is considered like an agent in the marketplace. And in a land deal, the owner can disassociate him. The owner can disassociate himself from a deal transacted by his agent. The assumption in the first case, where the owner's made a profit, is okay, he won't disassociate himself, but he has the right to do so. And the Mishnah is going to assume that if there's a loss, the owner will do that. What if we're just out by 1%? So her ketubah was a maneh. So her ketubah is worth 100. She actually sells property worth a maneh and a dinar. So that's 101. A dinar is a zuz. So she sold property worth 101 zuz. And she sold it for 1 maneh, i.e. for 1, she's 1% out. She's shortchanged the heirs by 1%. Michra batel. Her sale is invalid. The heirs have got the right to treat her as an agent who's kind of gone off market. They can invalidate the sale. Afiru hi omeret ani achvazir dinar liyoroshav. Even if she says, look, I'll return the dinar to the heirs. I'll pay back the dinar. It doesn't make any difference. Michra batel. So in principle, the transaction is off market and it doesn't stand. It's invalid. And her offering to return a dinar to the heirs doesn't seem to make any difference. And Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is going to disagree. This could be Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, son of Rabban Gamliel of Yavne, or It might be Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, the elder, who's the father of Rabban Gamliel of Yavne. We're not sure. Anyway, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Le'olam michra kayam. Her sale always stands. So Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is going to stand behind the widow. And I think we've seen him do this before, by the way. We've seen him stand up for women's rights before. So he says her sale always stands, unless she's wildly off market. Unless there's so much land there as to allow her to leave a field of 9 kav. 9 kav is about 30 yards square. So it's a decent sized field. So unless we're off market it's basically a decent sized backyard. Or from a garden area, from a garden area, an area of half a kav. As far as Rabbi Akiva is concerned, a quarter of a kav. Half a kav is about 6. It's about 6 yards by 6 yards. About 6 yards by 6 yards. That's missing from a garden. And the halacha doesn't go according to but the halacha doesn't go according to Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. I mean, he has a go, but he doesn't succeed. What if she sold in stages? And remember, at the beginning of the Mishnah, we talked about selling off the land in stages, maybe partially for maintenance and maybe partly for her ketubot. So maybe her ketubah was 400 zuz. So she's selling it off in pieces. She sells to this one for 1 maneh and to this one for 1 maneh. So she's gradually realizing the value of the ketubah. But the last one is off market. To the last one, she sells something worth a maneh and a dinar. In other words, 101 dinar, 101 zuz. And she sells it for 1 maneh. She sells it for 100. So she's off market by 1 zuz. She's off market by 1%. Shel achron batel, v'shel chulam michran kayam. So the last sale is invalid, but the first 3 sales stand. The first 3 sales stand because they're at the market, but the last one, which is off market, is invalid, and the heirs can effectively reverse it.